Okay, we're back to talk about Alien Earth, Season 1, Episode 6, The Fly. This episode written by Noah Hawley and Lisa Long and directed by Ugla Hawksdottir. The xenomorph that hatched from the preserved lung is now growing, and Wendy is still trying to learn to communicate with it, develop a bond with it. When Nibs is ordered to be reset by Adam, Dame Sylvia complies, but that causes Wendy to question exactly what Prodigy is doing there with them. Arthur is fired for refusing to help with the Nibs reset, so he then shows Joe a way to get off the island and disables Wendy's tracker. Boy Cavalier goes to negotiate with Yutani about the crash and the alien species, and he's able to get 25 billion more dollars, as well as 6 weeks of quarantine time to keep the species on his island before they have to be returned. While Cavalier and Kirsch are off island, Toodles tries the aliens and run the necessary experiments in the lab, but he is killed by the acid-spitting fly. Later, slightly tricks Arthur into going into the lab where Arthur is attacked by the face hugger. Slightly hides the body as he awaits instructions from Morrow. Interesting um, in this episode, things about what they're doing here with the people, the hybrids they've created. Interesting things about the actual alien species, the way that they act, the way that they choose to, what they choose to do, their intelligence, the the negotiation between Utani and Cavalier I thought was interesting. All that stuff I thought was great, but maybe the greatest part of the episode to me was conversation between Kirsch and Morrow on the elevator. I just watched a whole episode of that.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Lots of good stuff in this episode. I have a couple of things that, didn't land the best for me, which I'll go ahead and I don't know, present my quibbles on. But they're really, really kind of minor.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I thought the episode was great. One overall kind of thing I started thinking about is how somehow, and I'm not quite sure how, the show did somewhat manage to lull me into the space of feeling like they got it under control. You these Prodigy people, they've got it under control. They've got a secure lab, and I mean, maybe part of that's Kirsch because Kirsch seems eminently competent. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sort of a sucker for the competent character. But Kirsch isn't there. He's been taken away with Boy Cavalier to go to the arbitration meeting.
Hmm.
And so, I mean, let me get my quibbles out there. Again, they're really minor, but it was just a couple of things like I almost wondered if there were scenes that they wrote and cut or whatever, because part of me feels like it would really make sense if Kirsch didn't feel like it was worth his time to go to this meeting or something. So I almost feel like you could insert a scene of him saying like, "No, really, I should stay at the lab. Why am
Yeah.
I, And that's not there. The other thing is, let's see, with Nibs, I wasn't sure it made sense that she woke up in her room with Wendy there. Like you would think that they would
Mhm.
wake her up in the lab
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like run some
Let's
tests.
run some tests and see what we've got here. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Um, and then maybe the biggest one, but again, these are all very small. The I almost want to question why the writers made Dame Sylvia and Arthur a married couple. When
Yeah.
that came up a couple weeks ago, we're like, oh, we didn't realize they were married.
Yeah.
Um,
So 2 weeks ago, we sort of were surprised that we found out that they were married. Maybe we're just didn't pick up on that, but you and I both had missed that up until episode 4. And now here in episode 6, they're on such opposite sides of the Nibs conversation and what to do with that, that Dame Sylvia basically says, "Sure, I'll do it," and continues to do it even when it means her husband has said, "No, I'm not going to," and you're fired and get off the island by the end of the day. Yeah, it's just like what? Why not just work together? What's the point of being married then?
yeah, I mean, and so to be clear, look, the way I read it with Dame Sylvia is that I don't I don't think she was really okay with it either.
Hmm.
I think she shared Arthur's objections,
Yep.
and that comes out a little bit in the conversation before she agrees to do it. But she gets the implication that she doesn't have a choice,
Yeah.
that they don't have a choice. and her idiot husband doesn't get that implication, and so he says, no, I refuse to do it, so why doesn't she then say, well, I'm not going to do it if you're going to fire my husband? Well, because she knows that would just be bad for both of them. But it still just didn't, and then there's no scene of them having a conversation as husband and wife after that or anything like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about this from like kind of writer's perspective? Because this is where it ended up going in my mind to think, well, wouldn't it have worked just as well if they had just been friendly coworkers?
Yeah,
Like,
I
why
will.
write them as married?
When
Sorry,
I
go ahead.
saw that scene with between Adam and Arthur and Dame Sylvia, I thought or expected, okay, somewhere in the rest of this episode, we are going to get a scene. I took it as sort of Dame saying, "Yes, we will do it, and we will do it." But guess what? Later, Arthur, you and I know the technology and know the science here. We can figure out a way to undo it or reverse it or make it better. And there was going to be a conversation that happened later that said, okay, I did it just to sort of save ourselves. Now we can go back and do the thing we want to do because we sort of are responsible for what's actually happening with the technology here. But we got not just didn't have that conversation, as you said, no conversation between Dame and Arthur before he gets face hugged.
Right. And no, um, you know, no scene where she goes and tries to beg for him to be able to keep his job or anything like that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know. That's just where it landed in my mind is I almost feel like it would work better if they had just been friendly coworkers and
I agree.
they made them a married couple, maybe to try to drive home something about how evil Prodigy is, or something. But I don't
Yeah,
know that it worked that well for me
but
anyway.
yeah, it just didn't. It didn't. It didn't land, I think, the way they thought it would land because we never were built up with any connection between the two of them or had any stakes between the two of them. That just where it hit for me.
Yeah. But again, yeah, this is a minor point because overall, I think it ends up working quite well. Where it's like once again you have kind of series of unfortunate events. It's
Yeah.
like things come together almost serendipitously to lead to catastrophe, which is, I guess, it made me think about last week when we got the like short alien film and
hmm
the flashback episode, if you call it that. um I actually think it did work really well in terms of resonances with this episode, not
Yeah.
direct plot connections, but in a weird way it added to the horror of this episode
Yes.
to have that freshly in mind.
That's exactly what I thought as well, that there needed to be maybe after episode one, another level of terror and horror and sort of dread and tension that we're looking for with these characters and these species that they have. And they brought that last week and they just, figured it out. Yes, we can do the same thing in this current episode, in this current timeline, even if none of it involves Xenomorph, which I thought was pretty impressive.
Yeah. And I was thinking, I mean, maybe the most direct connection I could draw is I was thinking about how on the Maginot, the eye octopus like helped the other species basically
Yes,
to
yes,
get out. And
yes.
so there are all these ominous shots of the sheep.
Yeah,
And there is the moment where when Isaac or Toodles, I feel like I want to respect him and call him Isaac,
yeah.
that's the
We'll go
name
with
he
Isaac.
wanted.
Yeah.
When he's stupidly going into the cellar or whatever, the sheep does like bang against the window and startle him, and that's when he loses the door. So I don't know. There's just a lot of indications that alien species is really intelligent, and they told us that
Yeah,
too.
they definitely telegraphed that a couple of episodes ago, and this one I definitely marked specifically for us to talk about because it was just the, I mean, just the common trope of what are you thinking, going into that place and trying to deliver the food or do the experiment? What would compel you to think that you could go in there safely and get this thing done, regardless of what the sheep is doing? Just that you're going to go into this place with this alien species that you have no idea what it is or what it does and get that done. And so you just find yourself screaming at the screen. It's like, don't go in there. It just reminded me of being, campy
Yeah.
horror movies and screaming at the teenagers.
Yeah. And I mean, he doesn't take Curly with him. He should have taken
Right.
Curly with him. Um, Also, I don't know that I can identify what was on that food tray, but it seems like rocks.
Yeah.
You know what I
Rocks
mean?
and metal parts. Yeah.
Um, so this is the flora fauna alien, as we've previously called it, right? But it turns out to be like a cocoon or hive with these fly things.
Yeah.
Oh, and I was going to say we were talking last week about the title and whether it might be an allusion to the film
Yeah.
with Jeff Goldblum, or I think actually that's a remake. I think there's an older version as well,
An
which I
older
haven't seen.
version. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I started wondering, and I wonder what you think about this, Ryan. As I was watching the end of the episode in particular, I started thinking it might be an allusion to the Breaking Bad episode title.
Yeah. So we're stuck in a lab. We are dealing with things that are, we're trying to control the things that are somewhat uncontrollable. I did get that impression as well. It's sort of, you don't name this episode after just a random, anonymous species without some of these callbacks to other things. I did think about that episode as well.
Yeah, so fly loose in the lab, right? Because that's where we end up. The that door is open
Hmm.
and the door to the eggs is open. Now,
Yeah.
what we learned in this episode, right? So Kirsch had figured out pretty early on that the eggs were a threat to human beings, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So, no, get out of the lab. Only sentient hybrids in the lab where, the facehuggers don't seem to be, yeah. I mean, there's still something of a threat, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
even the xenomorph seems somewhat less interested in killing hybrids and synths. I don't know, whatever. There's something there.
And Cyborg from what we've seen so far.
Mhm. Yeah, there's something there we need to talk through more too. But now the fly, if we're going to call
Hmm.
it that, um, boy, is it a threat to our synth and hybrid friends, right? I mean, it
Yes.
just like quickly dispatches with poor Isaac. Um, and that I mean that scene was great too. And I always love the milk blood. But that door's open. The fly's loose in the lab. The fly's a threat to the synthetic beings. And the egg door is open, which is a threat to human beings.
Humans. Yeah. So we have five more eggs, and we know of, if we include, well, no, we can't include our three more. If we know we have Adam, Dame, Boy, and one other human left that I'm blanking on who it is. We've got at least four humans left in the lab there. So we got plenty of eggs to take over should they decide to go that direction.
Well, and then there are other people too, like there's some soldiers and stuff like
Yeah,
that,
Joe.
and
Joe's the other
there's
one. Yeah.
and in this episode, Joe goes on patrol with a
Hmm.
couple other soldiers. So there's these types of human beings around. If you just want randos to get face hugged.
Yeah.
Regardless,
Yeah, I did appreciate the irony of, it was Isaac that went in and was asked to do the experiments, asked to do the food, and the irony of this thing that they created, and they created with certain skills and abilities and strengths. It looked to me like it was his super strength that pulled the door off the food when it was trying to get it to him, and so that's what caused him to have to go inside in the first place. So yeah, this is these things may have crashed on your doorstep, but this is a product of your own doing if they've been unleashed.
yeah, like but then there's the curse of it all. You
That's right.
know,
Okay, we do have to talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah, because for one, he tells Isaac to go in there and all of that. Like maybe he thinks he can handle it.
Hmm.
Why doesn't he insist that he find Curly to go along? You know, um,
And why is everything affirmative when Boy says, is everything
Yeah.
all right? What is his intention by just watching this all happen, not intervening and not telling Boy what's they're walking back into? I think might be one of the biggest mysteries, and I'm not sure I've come to a theory on why he's not intervening here.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Right. And I don't know that I quite have a theory either, other than a thought that I think we talked about this before, some way in which it fits with how synths throughout the Alien franchise have tended to be more kind of fascinated and curious
Hmm.
about the
Yeah.
xenomorphs than anything else. But does that do it? I mean, it's he's supposed to be like the head of security, and uh, things are going to hell. I mean, to see maybe he's just curious about observing slightly. Does he know slightly he's being manipulated by Morrow? I guess I'm not positive on that. Um, I think so, though. I
Yeah,
mean, I feel like
they've
he
had the
heard their communication.
they've had the conversation about, how far would you go to to save your friends or your fellow Lost Boys or those that you work with. So yeah, I think Hirsch has listened to those some of those conversations. And so it's not that just he saw this and didn't intervene. It's he has seen what's going on and been building up to this and has letting this run its course for whatever reason.
Right. And I would expect, I mean, I guess letting slightly get a human being face hugged, I almost sort of get in,
Yeah.
in a way.
Especially one that Kirsch probably thinks, is irrelevant or doesn't matter to what to whatever it is they're trying to do. Sure, this is one that can happen to.
Yeah, yeah, whatever. Who cares about Arthur? Particularly he's been fired, you know. But that he doesn't show more concern about the security of his lab,
Hmm.
which it would seem he's also seeing.
Yeah.
Although I don't know. One question I had with all of this is Arthur, I believe, like turns off all of the hybrids when in surveillance terms, right? Like we've been told before, they're able to see through their eyes or whatever.
Yeah.
I believe he turns it off for all of them when he's
Uh,
talking to Joe.
yeah, my sense was he turned off all of their trackers, and so in terms of determining where they are, in terms of how they use them for surveillance, I don't know if it's distinctly, but it would make sense that if you're going to turn off where they are, you're going to turn off the component of how you can use to identify what they're doing and where they and what location they're in.
Yeah. So I wasn't entirely sure how that cashed out, but it's one thing that stuck with me as like, is this a thing that's going to have some other unforeseen terrible consequence that hasn't
Oh
happened
yeah.
yet?
Oh,
You
it
know what
has
I
to.
mean?
It has to. Yeah.
Yeah, it has to. But I would also think that someone would notice, right? Like, or like Kirsch would notice that.
Okay, I'm
So
glad you brought that up. He seems to be monitoring them all the time. He's eavesdropping on the conversations that Slightly and Moro are having. He's watching what they're doing. He's monitoring them. How, you know, if it's more than just a couple of minutes for him to get back to Prodigy City and not realize what's going on here, that's going to be quite odd because he seems to be right on top of their surveillance.
do you think it's possible that Kirsch hates Boyd Cavalier because he's a smug little prick and is thinking about betraying him and trying to work for Utani instead?
I think that he hates humans as a species. I think that he thinks that they're not evolved enough, and why he constantly is talking to Wendy and the Lost Boys about, how they should be and what they should do and what they're capable of, and thinks that they should move beyond, their humanness, and why he's going to have no issue if this thing runs loose and kills the humans involved so that they can have their he's going to become, I think, very interested in what Wendy is able to do and that connection that she's able to form. And I think he just has no love lost for any human as a part of this organization.
Okay, so yeah, okay. Maybe another possibility is thoughts about a coup with regard
Yeah.
to Prodigy, something like that. Um,
Just that synths and hybrids
Maybe.
are better capable or better equipped to handle a world where we have these things in our lives.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I've generally read him as more neutral or something. So we'll definitely be curious to see where that goes, and have just now gotten to thinking about those possibilities. Like maybe he's not just attached, maybe he has some kind of plan that he might be willing to carry out against
Yeah,
Boy Cavalier or
because if you think
something.
about it, we really haven't seen Kirsch do much of anything in this series so far. He's followed Boy around a couple places. He's led the Winnie and the Lost Boys into the retrieval of the species. But in terms of him doing something, making decisions, he's monitoring experiments. He just is, it's just kind of there lurking. And I think
Mhm.
there's going to be something that you ask Timothy Oliphant to do in these last two episodes that's going to be pretty devastating to whatever it is he's trying to accomplish.
Yeah, he's been great, by the way. I think this is great
Yes.
casting for a synth.
Yes.
Loving the gray hair and all of it, is I'm a big fan of Timothy Oliphant anyway, but I definitely think he's been great in this series. You mentioned the scene between him and Morrow on the elevator.
Mhm.
Mention again, it was great. I don't know if there's much more to say about it. I mean, I guess other than in relation to what we were just talking about, there's definitely some antipathy there, right? And taking to the level of, you know, I hate cyborgs, I hate synths,
Yeah. The pleasure that they would each have in killing the other one because you know that they want to. They just can't at that moment.
Right. Yeah. What did you think about the arbitration? This was another thing that didn't land super well for me, I guess. Um, Minor quibbles again, but how did it land for you? The
Well,
whole scene.
I think that I really appreciate what they were trying to do with Boy Cavalier and how they, I think, displayed his personality during that scene. But what didn't
Yeah.
land with me is, if these are the five most powerful people in the world, it almost seemed like he went in there and treated Utani like a little child, like, and Utani
Yeah.
just rolled over and took it. It's like I don't think Utani, the original, the original corporation, is going to just take this and just sort of be okay with it because Boy outsmarted her and Arbiter said that it has to be this way. I didn't think that really represented who Utani should be.
Yeah, I think that was also my problem with that. Such as, to the extent there was a problem in my
Yeah,
mind. Utani seemed almost stupid or out of her
yeah,
depth or something in a way that just didn't quite feel right to me.
right,
I mean, it almost felt like she didn't know about that quarantine
exactly.
agreement thing.
Yeah, your
Where,
lawyers need to better prepare you for that contingency. Yes.
yeah, and the way that they set it up, with Boy Cavalier, I mean, how his personality comes out and that scene, as you say, yeah, I get it, and so on. Um, and definitely had the effect of making me view him more negatively. This
Yeah,
is again this is a smug little prick, which I
right.
think is part of what they wanted to do. But I
Yes.
guess just the plausibility of it, um, where what would have felt more realistic to me was a more boring meeting where lawyers are talking and Boy Cavalier and Utani don't say anything.
Yeah, that seems to me like this what this should have been. If this is a common, I think they call it intercorporate law negotiation or arbitration, right? This is just something they've had to sit through before. They don't like this thing. Now, both of them care enough about what's happening here and getting their hands on what they have potentially found that they want to get involved personally. But yeah, just when the two of them, I think, didn't connect at the same level, Boyd just seemed to be another stratosphere than Utani in terms of preparation and what the outcome was going to be. That's when it just didn't quite connect.
Yeah, I guess it felt like that scene could have been better, but again, minor quibble. Um, the way it goes, the ultimate upshot, okay, fine, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, that Boy Cavalier is making the move of saying, okay, well, we've come to a peaceful agreement through this arbitration. I'll gladly return your specimens to you once the quarantine period's up. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? That all works, I think. Just the extent to which it kind of felt like Utani wasn't aware of the possibility of that move.
Yeah.
Yeah. But okay, so it goes. Not entirely clear then what she is going to do. It seems like she's open to the possibility of doing what Moro wants to do and somehow assaulting the complex or something like that.
Yeah. And that's really the only explanation is, okay, I'll just sort of roll over and accept this because in reality, I think it was the final scene of episode 5 when she's saying we need to be prepared to do what Moro's plan is. She knows that we're just going to go either take this thing by force or use Moro's plan to sneak these bodies out with facehuggers attached to them. So, I'll accept it. Fine, whatever. Let's just move on. I know that I'm going to get him in the end.
Yeah. So we have to imagine moving forward all of these things coming together in a certain way that is bound to be catastrophic, I would
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about Wendy. We haven't
Yeah,
talked about
please.
Wendy.
Yeah.
Um, she's making friends with the xenomorph,
Yeah.
making clicky noises.
Learning their language, learning to communicate, how to connect, to bond. They're not, it's not petting the thing on the head anymore, like last 2 episodes ago. But they have to be separated by glass and steel, but still developing quite a intimate bond. It seems like.
Yeah, she says a couple times, it didn't ask to be there. And I think she tells Joe she thinks this one might even be good.
You're right. Yes.
So Wendy's got like a pet xenomorph, which is growing fast. It did get me thinking about this is basically canon. The xenomorphs grow very fast. And I
Very
got to
fast.
thinking about
Yeah.
like, how do I do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh,
Seems like they should need more food or something to do
as,
that.
yeah. Like, are there xenomorph skins that are shed, like a snake every couple hours or something? It's like, yeah. How's it? How can it do this?
Yeah, I
Good
don't know that
question.
that's ever been in there though. That they shed their skin. I think but they grow fast, so it's pretty big by the end of the episode. Not entirely clear how much time has passed, but I think it's only been a couple days at most.
Yeah. Yeah. I would think so.
Joe is plotting and scheming to try to get off the island and take Wendy slash Marcy with him, but she even says to him in their conversation this episode that maybe she won't want to leave. What if I don't want to leave?
Yeah. I found
He,
that comment interesting in comparison to one of the things referenced here that it seems like Wendy is coming to a realization that these hybrids are just like the xenomorphs and the flies and the faunas and the sheep and then the eye alien. They're being studied. They're being experimented on. They can do whatever they want to them without any seemingly any repercussions to the prodigy people. And so she seems to be latching on to that, but then says she doesn't want to leave. Um, and so, yeah, I think in terms of what Wendy is planning or what her intentions are with either this connection she made with the Xenomorph or what she wants to do to try and create some autonomy, I'm very interested to see where it goes with her.
yeah, and I think this is where the nib stuff factors in, maybe most meaningfully, um, in relation to Wendy, because it kind of seems like she's pretty happy and on board with Prodigy and making
Yeah,
friends with the Xenomorph. And this is a yes place and yada, yada, yada. But when she finds out that they have messed with Nibs's mind,
right, right.
then now she's worried. Now she's like, well, um, could they do that to me, to the rest of us? That this means that they're not treating us as like persons with rights,
Correct.
because
Yes.
you couldn't justify doing that to a person. I think her thoughts are going in that direction. So certainly I think she's at least a little bit torn, but I don't know if she's gotten to where she's just ready to try to like make an escape with Joe, which seems to be what he wants to do right away.
Yes, I think that I think torn is the right way to put it. She understands or at least has a sense of what she's able to do, that she is special, that she means something, that there's a reason, purpose why she is there. Um, she doesn't appreciate the fact that, yes, they can just tell her to lie down and wipe her mind at any point. But the thought of leaving with Joe and leaving this thing behind that she's been given, these sort of gifts and abilities she's been given, that is clearly outweighing the, "Oh, I can just go somewhere else and live with Joe forever."
Yeah. So Arthur gives Joe what, like coordinates for the boat or a
I think it's like
passcode
a, yeah,
in order to
passcode
be
to
able to
let
get a
it, yeah,
boat,
let the boat go into the water or something like that. Yeah.
encouraging him to get Wendy out of there right away.
Mm.
So it would seem like this is likely something that will happen pretty soon, where at least Joe will find her and try to get her to leave the island. One thing I got to thinking about here, Ryan, is we've wondered about the possibility for further seasons and what they might look like. I
Yeah.
raised the possibility at one point that it could be an anthology series like Fargo. We don't know. But if it's not, and there's some connections, it did occur to me that one narrative possibility is that, okay, things really go down and go to hell on this island. And it's at that point that Wendy becomes willing to leave, so like maybe the season ends where it's like everyone dies, but Joe and Wendy get away or something.
Yeah.
And like they're the
Yeah.
characters that would carry over. I have no idea.
And
But
Wendy has to make a choice about the bond she created with this thing, learning that it's not good, learning that it's just going to continue to do what it's naturally created to do and destroy. And so the only option is to try to destroy in return, right? All these things that they've got caged up in there. And yet, yeah, I do think that I'm sure that there will be consideration of a second season. So they're not going to get rid of all of it. All those eggs are not going to be destroyed. Not all those aliens are going to end up being torched or whatever. So yeah, something's going to survive. And I think the big question now is who from our known humans, hybrids, and synths are going to survive with them.
yeah, if we're talking about
If,
season two as a continuation of this narrative,
right.
which I
If,
do
yeah,
think, again, it's worth noting, maybe, it's entirely possible that, they can make more seasons, but in that more anthology style, a la
correct.
Fargo. We've seen it from Noah Hawley before. So,
Yep.
um,
Yep.
where, of course, also Legion is one continuing narrative, right?
Mhm.
So he's done both kinds of show. So, let's see. Anything else you want to hit on here before we wrap it up?
I think that covers it. I mean, I think yeah, it certainly had some quibbles here, but really a sort of strong return. I just love this stuff back in the lab and the horror elements of it. I think we're going to get quite a bit of drama and action, and hopefully we combine a little more horror with it too over the last two episodes.
Yeah, definitely good horror elements in this episode. The whole scene with Isaac in the lab alone,
Yeah,
the way it's filmed and everything. And they managed to get my sympathies for Toodles pretty
yeah,
quickly. I mean,
yeah,
like we haven't
yeah,
seen a ton of him in the series, but I was like, oh no, not Isaac.
yeah.
Um, so really good stuff. We end on the shot of the sheep. Something's gonna happen with that sheep. Um, oh, and then one thing we somehow haven't talked about, although we could have, I don't think we've mentioned this on any of the podcast episodes yet. Any thoughts on the music? Like, there's a running theme of
Oh
every
yeah,
episode ending with like a '90s metal song.
yeah. I do find myself very interested and intrigued at the end of every episode which one it's going to be. I forget now. I'm already blanking which one it was in this episode.
I think it was
Uh,
Godsmack.
yeah, might
Uh,
have been. Not always my cup of tea in terms of music, but it always seems to match the theme of what we just, yeah, the trauma of what we just watched.
it's worked pretty well for me. I mean,
Yeah.
um, it was Tool back in like episode two. That's the only
Yes.
one where I was definitely I'm something of a Tool fan, and in particularly was more of a Tool fan even when I was younger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it just seems like an interesting choice. I've seen some people kind of complaining about it and feeling like it doesn't really fit. but they don't care too much because it's right at the very end of the episodes. They just turn it
Right.
off. But yeah, it is a game we could play to guess like, okay, well, like what song is gonna we know it's gonna be in that wheelhouse apparently of like 90s rock metal type song,
Yeah.
when are we getting Pearl Jam? Something's gonna happen. So we'll see, but yeah,
And also on the creative choices, just a shout out to the whoever made the decision that is they do the title card with the alien
the
Earth
opening.
overlay.
Oh
That
yeah.
that's how they flash in some of the things from last week or previous episodes. Just very cool stylistic choice that I really like.
Yeah, and the music there is really good too.
Yeah.
This is just very kind of brief, sparse opening title sequence style that
Yeah.
they're doing. Yeah, I've been enjoying that a lot. So good call out there. All right, well, we'll leave it there. Thanks as always for listening. Hopefully you've enjoyed the podcast. If so, please do leave us a good rating, review, all that good stuff. If you're on YouTube, give a thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Greatly appreciated. You follow TV Obsessive on social media. If you search for TV Obsessive, you should find us on pretty much whatever platform. Check out tvobsessive.com for written work on any number of TV shows, past and present. We've got a few series we're covering right now. Foundation, which is ending on Friday, season ends. I'm writing on Invasion. We've got Chris Sheridan writing on Peacemaker. We'll have at least a couple of articles on Only Murders in the Building. Dexter Resurrection, that season ended last week, but Andrew Grievous was covering that for us. And yeah, just check out the site, poke around, and we'll be back with you next week.
All right. See you then.